Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with Stephen and John as usual, and we're joined by a very special guest, TJ Perkins. Thank you for joining us, TJ. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well.
So, I suppose we'll just briefly touch on the recent dark match you had at the TNA Impact tapings against Zema Ion. Well, how did the dark match go? Is sort of my first question.
Well, I've been telling everybody, seriously, it wasn't me. It was some other guy in a mask. It wasn't me at all.
Did you happen to
Um,
see how that mask that match went with the guy in the mask?
um, no, the match went really well. Um, I to be honest, I kind of felt like it was so, but maybe just because it like the timing of it, because we were like usually when at TV tapings when they have like a dark main event and they'll throw on a match afterward. So that we were in that spot. So
Hmm.
like it was kind of like a long night at that point. So maybe I felt like my brain was kind of on autopilot. 'Cause sometimes it's like that. But I mean, I thought the match was okay and pretty good. And but the people around us really loved it.
Hmm.
Most of the people there, like they're friends of mine already, or the people that have known me for years because I've been working there off and on since like 2004, and a lot of the crew and the roster is the same guys, so they kind of knew what to expect from me. So they're always happy with my work and stuff like that. So I thought it went pretty good.
It's good to hear. So I suppose a lot of people were wondering. We haven't seen you actually wrestle as Puma for a while. Normally you wrestle as, well, just yourself, TJ Perkins. So why did you wrestle as Puma in the dark match?
Well, they requested it specifically actually because initially when I was talking to to the talent relations and everything, it was just as myself. I mean, I haven't not that I talk to people as Puma. Like,
Does
hi,
he have his own email account or something?
my name is Puma. Uh, no, I was so originally I hadn't even thought about the mask. I haven't wrestled with that thing in like like 3 or 4 years maybe.
Mm,
Um, but after a while like came back like no, we'd really like to see this. So I think that there's a specific idea in mind or a specific reason in mind.
mm.
Maybe something something that was never really on the plate before, but now it is, or something that they're looking for. So
That's good.
maybe there's a reason I don't know specifically.
Mm. Romaine on Facebook says, would you prefer to wrestle as TJP or Puma?
Um, you know, I would always prefer to be myself. But see, the thing is like there's a lot of things with the mask character that okay, generally speaking, about 5% of what we do as wrestlers is up to us. So much of what people get to see by the time we go out through the curtain or by the time the promo is actually shot on camera is completely been changed to where it's a product of everybody else and almost zero of it is you, to be honest. Like
Mm,
that's a lot of the case. So a lot of the times before, the mask character and everything, even me as myself, like in Ring of Honor, I'm just a tool for what ideas other people need to get out there. I'm just the vessel. So there's a lot of direction I would have liked to take, you know, any character at any time. And I think most recently, as myself, I've been given enough freedom to kind of be just me.
mm,
But to be honest, I'd like to be able to see what I could do with a little bit more creative freedom with the mask. Because it's like I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm a guy from another country and I don't say a word. And it's like every masked character in the history of wrestling is like Great Muta, like just mysterious and they don't say a word and they're always from another country. And it's like I think at this point that's just destined to fail because
mm.
of so many generations have seen that. So it's just I think if given the chance to do something different, I think that there's such a cool thing to do. I mean, who
Mm.
knows? Why couldn't I just be both at the same time?
Have you got any sort of indication if there's any plans for you in TNA going forward?
Um, Concrete plans, no, but but everything is kind of still ongoing with that. So.
FM 20,000 on our forum asks if you have any plans if the deal with TNA doesn't go through.
Well, I always got I mean, there's always something for me to do. There's really never been a time other than when I was like super down out in Florida, when there wasn't something for me to do, like something on the table. I just, I take option B over option A or whatever I do. I know that there's one place that said I'd have a job waiting for me by the end of the year if I don't decide to go somewhere else. So that's kind of my backup plan. But even like when I left like the Ring of Honor stuff, I mean that was a real open door. Like that was completely amicable. So I don't know how much the situation will change creatively for them and the direction of everything they want to do, but there's always that. And then and even like Japan, like there's a lot of stuff that I could do, just lining up the opportunities in the right way, or like when I was younger, I'd just take whatever I can get. Now it's more like, well, do I want to live in this place for a long time, or would I rather work here? Is the money better here? Like, I just bought a place, so it's like I'll be paying a mortgage. Am I even going to live in the house that I bought? Like, so like a lot of it depends on me being an adult, which I'm not a very good adult. So.
Right, I suppose we should talk more about Ring of Honor now. I mean, when you were first signed in, I think it was October 2011, when you first signed your contract. I mean, was there any initial plans put forward, maybe from Jim or from Bod Delirious of, creatively going forward?
You were saying when I first signed.
Yeah, when you first signed.
Yeah. If they had like a direction or an idea to go. No, I've never. Well, I mean, they may have, and it wasn't relayed to me or articulated in that way. But the only thing I remember is that when I first came in, it was like Jim didn't really know me. Jim just, I think because I'm young and clean cut and very like I don't have the like jaded demeanor that a lot of like people with a lot of years under the belt have. So I think because of my disposition, he assumed I was like a 2-year guy. Like I was like like Adam Cole or something, like somebody who's been around a few years and like not just getting their feet wet necessarily, because even like Adam's generation has way more experience than that, but like he just thought I was a younger guy. So after like Hunter and different people like kind of explained to him, well, no, he's just he is who he is, and he's done this or that. And then when we were negotiating, and he understood, like I got like a very unique like career. Like my life has been pretty unique in the timing of it all and the length of my career and stuff. So the original idea for him is that we want you to be able to tell your story. And so they had all those sit down segments with I guess, what are they, the Inside Ring of Honor segments, something like that. So like where it's like very like WWE DVD documentary ish, like where they like dive into people's things. So he's like, we will do something like that with you, because who's wrestled all these places is you, who's accomplished all that in the way that you have. Like that's a very rare thing. So I just kind of expected at some point that we're gonna do that, because he said your story sells itself. And we never did. We just, I did the normal stuff, and they were going with the people they were going with. And, it might have just been a situation where we've got, an hour of TV and pay-per-view every so often. And, we have a really good roster, and they're going with certain people that they already have in mind. And, certain things just don't come about.
I mean, saying that, would it be fair to say that maybe you were a bit disappointed with how you were portrayed on TV?
Well, I was disappointed because I think that they could have gotten a lot out of me telling my story. Because so many people that really enjoy my work, you know, they just tend to buy into me. Like people think charisma is like like awkwardly hopping on one leg and throwing an arm in the air when you come through the curtain and like doing all that really overemphasized wrestling-y stuff. And that's not charisma. I mean, charisma is just simply people's ability to buy into you. And I think a lot of people that have really dug me in the past and now like they see my life and they see that's so interesting. Like I really like this guy, you know? So to me, like, or to them, that's like it's a very big hook. Like that provides all the built-in, like, you know, charisma you need because that's insight into a person's life. And I thought that not so much disappointing for me, but I kind of felt like, gosh, you guys could have gotten so much more out of me.
Yeah.
For your sake, because I just felt like I don't want to waste your guys' time. To me, I'm just happy being in the ring. Like, and I guess we'll talk more about this later when we talk about the release. But yeah, I mean, like, I wasn't disappointed, you know, being in short matches or losing or you know, having, you know, a boring character written for me, but because I just, you know, I just like being in the ring. I'm just happy to do the job. But yeah, I felt it was more for them. Like, you guys, I could have given you guys more. So
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that character that was written for you. I mean, how much input exactly did you have on, you know, on your character and maybe the promos and stuff like that?
well, you know, part of this is probably my fault because I never wanted to. Well, not that I didn't want to, but I never really stepped in and said, let's take this in like a different direction or whatever. I just kind of, you know, they asked me for what they wanted. I gave it to them, and they always seemed very happy about it. Like a lot of the promos and stuff that made TV, some of them were just shot in one take, you know, because I was given everything I was supposed to say and told to deliver it in a certain way. So like the delivery and the words, you know, it was handed to me like, do
Yeah.
it like this, say it like this, close it like this, and I'd do it in like one take, and you know, the guys would be like, great, that's perfect, that's, you know, I mean, the creative thought that. I mean, even like Joe Koff was there with Sinclair one time. He's like, that was great, TJ. And I was like, okay, all right, this is what you guys want. So for a while, I just didn't think anything of it. I just figured this is what they want, and
Yeah.
they know what they're doing. And then, you know, I mean, especially when you get into like bigger products, like when you're heading towards like a more mainstream type thing, like the buffer between us and the fans is much larger. So it's like, I don't know how this stuff is being received. It's going to take a while. But then after a while, I'm like, okay, I'm doing nothing. I think I lapped the company and losing to everybody one by one. And then I was like, maybe they're not getting out of me what they want, you know? So like, there were times when I would, you know, try to take, it was usually always in promos. Because in matches, it doesn't really matter. I mean, wrestling's wrestling. I don't think anybody's ever doubted my ability to wrestle, but like the promos and stuff, I would take in different directions every now and then, but it would just be catered or be tapered right back to where it was. So I just figured, okay, this is what they want. And then it wasn't until like recently, the very end, where I was like, look, maybe this whole thing needs an overhaul. And we did talk at length about that. So
I mean, what came out of that? I mean, I suppose it's disappointing from a personal point of view, knowing that, you know, you discovered really that it maybe wasn't going as planned, and you wanted it to change. I mean, were they receptive to that, or they think it
well,
was going okay?
Well, see, the thing was, like, as far as it going as planned, I just don't think they ever had a plan for it. Like,
Yeah.
even though they seem like okay, they're real happy about everything they're getting, I don't think that they ever had a plan for what they wanted. So maybe they were just more worried about other stuff. Like, you know, they're more worried about the steak. They're not so worried about how the green beans are coming out. Like, you know, that type of thing. Like whatever. Like, it's okay.
Mm.
Um, but I remember like when I had, well, see, by the time I had approached them about, like, maybe we should take this whole thing in a different direction, I mean, it was just kind of out the door already anyway. So,
Mm.
I mean, there are some plans and things that we put into place to change it all completely, but, you know, we have yet to see it because, I mean, who knows? It might be something that we do later on down the line. I don't know.
Mm. I mean, Ring of Honor, for some reason, that they seem to like giving people nicknames. They seem to be coming up with nicknames for everybody. I mean, was Technical Lightning your idea, or was that something that they came up with?
No, that was totally Jim's idea. I think it was Jim's idea. It might have been Jim and Hunter together, because I think I remember at one point I was starting to think that maybe half of the room had one idea about who I was, and the other half had a different idea. And sometimes I think that might be a product of, like, maybe I'm too versatile. Like, because I remember the very first meeting at TV that we had, the very first TV, I said, what do you want me to do? Like, do you want me to be the knockout guy because people see me as that guy? Do you want me to be the submission guy because people think I am that guy? Do you want me to be the high flying guy because people think I'm that guy? Like, what do you want? Because it was like anything short of throwing a chair at somebody. Like, I've at some point over the last 14 years, I've had a reputation for that. So then, I think they just wanted me to be like their Matt Sydal, like just go out and fly and do all the stuff. But then, I wasn't winning enough matches to do the 450 every night. So like that wasn't going to get across. And then so many of the fans are like, no, this guy's like the best technical wrestler in the world. He should be doing wrestling. So then they're like, okay, go with the technical stuff. But then they're like, no, but he's really fast. And it's like, that's another reputation I have. So then I think maybe at some point they're like, technical. No, he's like lightning. No, he's technical. No, he's like lightning. Okay, he's technical lightning.
What did you think of that nickname and that whole sort of? I know that you got into a few promos and stuff as well, didn't you?
The lightning will hurt you or something was the.
You can't catch lightning, I think was another one. Yeah.
I thought the name was cool, but I thought the name is fine. I actually thought the name was really cool. At first, I thought, well, people are going to think this is lame, and I think people did think it was lame at first, but I think it stands out as a name. I mean, it's different. It's not as lame like the more you hear it, but I thought the closing stuff was bad. None of that stuff. Well, almost nothing that I've ever said in any of the promos ever came from me. Almost nothing. The time that I told, I can't remember who I was talking to, but I said the guy couldn't catch lightning if his name was Ben Franklin. That was mine. Like that's an idea. So every now and then I'd sneak in something that I would say and it'd be funny. And then I think one time I said, and this isn't anything to do with the nickname, but like, well, I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, like the closing line stuff is like, I thought that was bad. Like the lightning would hurt you and the thunder. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I just thought that wasn't going to register with our generation. So, but they liked it. They thought it was good. So I just kept giving it to them. Like if you work at McDonald's, you may not like hamburgers, but that shouldn't affect your ability to make one. So
yeah. We've got a fan question from Harpoon IPA who asks, you wanted help from fans on designing a shirt for you, then something happened where ROH told you not to continue with the shirt project. Were you in the ROH doghouse because of that?
Doghouse, no. I've never been in the doghouse with them, like ever. The worst that anything has ever happened is when the fans after I was like time off with me and the Bucks as well. I think Sinclair was upset that so many people were backlashing, like, why would you leave these guys off, like things like that. For some reason they were upset at us, but it's like I don't know. I don't know how you could be upset at us for public opinion. Like we weren't campaigning or anything.
Yeah.
But no, I've never been in the doghouse, especially not for that. In fact, they didn't say anything to me. I think they ended up, they just they wanted websites and people that were like blogging and tweeting about it to stop doing it. So they didn't even say anything to me.
Going back to in the ring things now. I mean, you teamed up with Amazing Red, I believe, was it the 10th anniversary show against the House of Truth, and that was a really good match. I mean, was that something that you'd be interested in, doing? You and an Amazing Red tag team, maybe?
Didn't Ring of Honor even hint that it was going to continue once in the newswire as well? What happened there?
Yeah, I think they might have. Yeah.
They told me that it was going to continue. They said it was going to keep going after Florida. because I think it was like we did New York, and then I don't know if we had TV in between. We may have already had a set filmed, and then Florida was coming up, and then they're saying after that, like things will reset or like kind of go in a different direction, and we'll get back with you and Red. And they said in the meantime we'll give you like a singles victory and do this stuff with Shikara and stuff like that. So I said great, and that nothing, it just never came back. I wanted.
You given any reasons for that? Or?
No, none. Just never did. Which boggles my mind because Red lives in New York, so he could be everywhere.
Hmm.
You
That is
know.
strange.
So I don't know. I mean anything, everything except for like Chicago, he wouldn't even need to touch a plane. So. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted it to continue. I loved it. And for me, that was kind of more for selfish reasons, just because Red's a really good friend of mine, from just knowing him over the years and stuff. And he's a real laid back guy. He's a lot like me in that sense. Like he's not uptight in any way. So he's real cool to work with. And then I thought the tag division, not that it was like fledgling, because it was probably the best. I think we had like the best lineup for tag teams as far as every other major company. But I think that maybe it needed a shot in the arm. And I thought we could have done a real good job at that. And then also
Mm.
selfishly, like the Bucks are two of my best friends in the world. So like I'd be able to wrestle them often. And I really liked the singles I had with Jay Briscoe not long before that. And I wanted to get in the ring with him more, but he's a tag wrestler. I'm a singles wrestler. And even the match we had, I loved it, but like I was on one leg. I had a partially torn quad. So I was like, man, I want to do this again when, we could put more time and I'd have a complete body to use.
Yeah.
So, I figured with Red, there's a lot of stuff to do, but it just never came about.
I think a lot of the fans were disappointed as well at that point because, as you said, I think the tag team division could have maybe needed spicing up a bit, and I think you and Red were, that you teamed well together in that one match, and I think a lot of people were excited to see that. So
Mm.
it was disappointing not to it didn't come to fruition.
That was sorry, that was just after Future Shock had split as well, so it seemed like a logical thing to do at that point after just losing a team, form another one together.
Yeah, see, I think that was kind of like my mode of thinking is that it would be a natural progression because of that. Because, like I said, the division was really, the guys that are in, a lot of the more talented guys are in that division, like the Briscoes and Cedric Alexander and Caprice and the Bucks and I don't know if the Bravados were in Japan at that point or they're about to go, but there's a lot of really interesting and very good people. So we just thought, man, this would be real great, but didn't happen.
I mean, you mentioned some of the matches that you had against, especially Jay Briscoe. I mean, DB Summer wants to know which was your favourite match from your run in Ring of Honor.
I might say the last two that I did in New York, just because they weren't. I don't think they're supposed to turn out as good as they did. Well, I mean that because I've always taken a lot of pride in just being able to go out in whatever position and we want this and I could give it to them. Like no matter who I was wrestling, it would be a good match. It'd be the kind of match that they wanted, not good for the sake of good, but good for the sake of what they wanted. Like I could do any of that, but blend into the right spot. So it's like I'm not taking over, the screen or anything like that. And those ones are the specific times when I think it was like it stood out how good it was, like the singles with Elgin and then the follow-up, the tag with Red, and then there was the big tag at Border Wars. And I think at that, like especially with that one, a lot of us in that match had chips on our shoulders, so to speak, because it was like we all had issues, not issues because I didn't really have an issue, but like there's stuff on the table that it's like we could kind of put all that energy and frustration into just our work. And so I mean, those three off the top of my head are probably three of the highest points. But I mean, there's some others too. I mean, like, I personally enjoyed the match I had with Cabana way back when, just because I thought that was a lot of fun. And it's a, you know, it's a style that not everybody can do, and it's unique, and and he's a good friend. And
Yeah.
I just recently I saw the match I did with Hero. I hadn't seen it, and I thought that turned out really well. I love that match, and like um, the match with Davey in California. I thought that was like, because I mean all the other matches is like, okay, obviously this guy can go out and do 4 minutes with any random guy and it'll be a good TV match. But then it's like in that case we had a lot of time. It was with a guy who was a main event guy, and we had a great match.
Yeah.
And so then it's like showing that I have the range to reach any part of the card, I guess. But so there's a lot that I was fond of. I don't think there's any that I didn't like.
Mm. I mean, you mentioned earlier that Cornette and Delirious did have a lot of input into your character. I mean, a lot of Ring of Honor fans still wonder, really, who is the main guy out of those two. I mean, do they sort of share sort of booking duties? Is it mainly Cornette, or what's the sort of relationship between those two
As
in the
far as I
booking?
as far as I can see, it seems like it's pretty much split right down the middle. I mean, they're a committee, and I don't know because I'm not a fly on the wall, but like I, from what I've seen, I have yet to even see them be divided on anything. They seem to see eye to eye on everything. Like, we do production meetings and different stuff, and they're the agents for everything that goes out there. So everything you see comes from both of them, not one or the other.
Mm.
So I don't know, but it doesn't seem like there's a greater majority on one side or the other with them.
I think a lot of fans think it's mainly Cornette because I think a lot of people liken a lot of current ROH sort of storylines and maybe match finishes with stuff that happened back in Smoky Mountain and stuff like that, don't they? So
I could see that. I think that you'd have to put it into perspective though that so Jim's got more experience than like any two or three guys in that room. So um in the process of building this company in a direction, and especially at this level, like, okay, now there's TV, there's pay-per-view, and we're trying to deal with mainstream and casual audiences, and especially in this case where it's like a very um, not primitive, but like a very young spot. Like it's a building
yeah,
process, like they're trying to build the base. So it's a very complicated process, and I think it's like because of Jim's experience, there's stuff where he has experience in that position. Like, okay, here's where we are, and I'm talking technical stuff here. I mean, this like is nothing that you see in the ring necessarily, but just like we need to do this like this and time this like this and pace this out like in X amount of steps. And for the other guys, that's completely foreign because they're used to like indie wrestling where it's like, okay, what are we doing next month? And what are we doing next month? And,
yeah.
so a lot of it has to be deferred to Jim because he's the only guy that would know what to do.
Mm.
But I mean, creatively, it seems like everybody shares the same mind. I don't, it doesn't seem to me like there's ever been a time where they're like, well, which direction do we go?
Mm. And I
Because
think so,
Jim loves, uh, Jim loves guys that go out and just tear the house down. He loves that. Like when guys go like when I had the match with Davey in LA, or like the big Border Wars tag that we had, like I think people would automatically think, okay, that's the type of thing that Cornette wouldn't like. Like he wants
yeah.
like old like Memphis style or Southern style wrestling. No, he loved that. He loves all of that. Like he'll make it a point, the very next day in the production meeting, that was, the best match, or this was, whatever it was. Like he loves that. So that's a real big misconception, I think.
I mean, do you think it's unfair the amount of sort of stick that he maybe gets from the fan base? And do you think he's the sort of the right man to be in that position with Ring of Honor at the moment?
Um, I do think it's unfair, but it's unfair with everybody. I mean, everybody gets unfair stuff. So, I mean, and
Yeah,
it's unfair both ways. There's some guys that their job couldn't be easier because of how much support they get, and they don't deserve it. And it's like,
yeah,
and I've seen it with myself both ways. Like some people blindly love me, and there's some people that just hate me, and like the only thing that they can pick on me for is like charisma, which is like a cop out because you could say that about anybody. But like in Jim's case, I just think that like he's in the position where if somebody's going to be guilty, it's an easy person to point a finger at.
mm,
Likewise, though, I kind of think that Jim's the perfect guy for that spot because I kind of think he deals with that pressure well. So,
mm.
So moving on to the end of your last Ring of Honor run, when did you notice your bookings start to decrease?
I want to say one of the New York shows it might have been it because well, no, actually, I'm sorry. When it was we were still doing TVs in Louisville, I think, and then they had like the Philly show coming up, that big one that they had, and then we might have been in Baltimore already, but we had that Philly show coming up, which is like a house show, and then like I think a Cincinnati show. I can't remember the other city, but like some of us weren't on it, and I remember I wasn't on it, and then they had a lot of dates set up, and a whole bunch of them were pulled off of my schedule. And I know that some other guys had them pulled too. And then some shows got canceled, so people probably wouldn't even know where those shows would have been because there's a lot of dates that get canceled all the time. So that was like the first time. I remember I was like the Philly show was a big show for the company, even though it was a house show, and then I wasn't on, and then so there was one time where it stuff was taken off, but I kind of didn't think anything of it. I just figured, okay, well, they're just shuffling it how they see fit. And then it wasn't until, God, I don't know, maybe around WrestleMania weekend when it was like we had a double shot, but I was only on one. But I was in the city for both nights. And I was thinking, well, I'm here for both nights. Why am I only wrestling one night? But I mean, it wasn't like a frustrating thing. It's just kind of puzzling. But I could like you kind of see that maybe there's more to come in this instance. Like maybe there's a reason why. And then sure enough, more and more stuff started getting pulled until it was like, all right, well, we're gonna leave you off for a while. So.
And yeah, how did you find out about the summer hiatus?
Um, I think it was so between WrestleMania weekend and Border Wars, somewhere in there, I was trying to get my schedule because it was like a lot of times we kind of started to get our schedule a little late, but I hadn't had an update for my schedule for a long time. And then, the schedule on my website, like I wanted to be able to add the proper dates. And then obviously like for our own like third party schedules, all of us as wrestlers, like, since we're reliant upon Ring of Honor letting us know when we're on or off, it's hard for us to do our own thing too. So, I was trying to contact the office about, well, can I get an update? What's the schedule looking like? What's the schedule looking like? And I was getting nothing and nothing and nothing and nothing for a while. And then after a long time of not even being able to get a hold of them, I got an email back and they said, look, we're going to end up having to leave you off for a while. So it was kind of a brief thing that I was sent. And then at Border Wars, they pulled me and the Bucks aside for a meeting specifically and just said, look, laid it all out for us.
And what was Ring of Honor's explanation for not bringing you in during the summer?
A little bit of everything. It was just kind of, it's kind of funny. Uh, like, it, at one point or another, they used everything as a reason. So to be honest, I don't really know what it was because like the first time when I had just heard, I had, let's see, I think I'd called Nick and Matt and I said, yeah, I'm gonna be off, guys, because we travel together and everything. I was like, I won't be seeing you for a little while. And then shortly after that, they heard because they hadn't gotten an update to their schedule in a while. So we were talking about like why they would do this and things like that. Like what could the reasons have been and all that. Uh, and so there were different times when we would ask questions about it. And we would get an answer like, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that. And then in Toronto, we kind of tried to put it all out on the table, but it was like a lot of the stuff was just real contradictory. Like they'd bring up travel, for example. Like, okay, travel. Like I completely understand that, but then the Bucks used to run their own shows, so like they really understand the logistics of number crunching for travel. I mean, right down to the cent. So, they would beg the question, well, okay, so we're West Coast guys, but what about Texas guys or Florida guys or something like that? Like that's not that much cheaper. And then there are other guys coming from the West Coast, like Mike Bennett lives in LA. Maria lives in LA. Nigel lives in LA. Kenny lived in Vegas, which is the same thing. So then it's like there was a whole lot of us on the West Coast, but only us were being left off. Not that I feel like any of those guys should be left off. I don't think anyone should have. But, so there's questions like if it's travel, then why specifically us? And so then, because at first it was like they'd say, oh, it's because of travel. So we bring up the cost of tickets. And then they'd say, oh, well, the travel agent doesn't actually shop for the cheapest ticket. So then we're like, okay, so how could it be travel? Like, if you guys are booking it not based off of price first, then how could it be travel? And then on top of that, like, I don't know about the Bucks because I imagine they're probably pretty high priced, but like, when I signed, I took a huge, 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 huge pay cut. I took a third of what I normally make on the indies.
Wow.
So my contract wasn't worth very much. But I did that specifically because they said, look, for X amount of money, like, we can only do so much with you or whatever. But basically it was like to sign at that price was like we could put you on everything. But it turned out I was on like nothing eventually. But so then we would beg the question, well, even if it is about like the cost of travel, it's like, well, the cost of travel plus my contract, purposely being, I came in really low on purpose. There's no way that the total cost of investment is more for me than anybody else. And I don't know about the Bucks because that's their own thing, but like. And then, so then it got off of travel because there's like a bunch of West Coast guys and we asked, why is it us specifically? And then they said, well, we promised certain guys like, we promised certain guys that we would, do certain things with them. So then it's like, okay, so now it's just about, your word. And it's like, it just became about something new every day.
And you speaking about your contract a minute ago. Uh, are contracts in Ring of Honor, are they pay per appearance or are they something else?
Well, mine was per appearance, like not salary or anything. I think that we, like, a lot of guys have different setups completely. So,
Mm-hmm.
So when you
I don't
weren't
really know.
getting, see, when you weren't getting booked, you'd get nothing then at all.
Oh yeah, no, I was sitting at home with nothing.
Oh dear.
Yeah, nothing. There's some sort of like setup for residuals off like DVD sales and things like that. So every now and then I would get like, we would go to TV and then I would get my paycheck for say like a recent TV or pay-per-view, and it would be that plus a little more. And it took me a while to figure it out. Like I'm like, why the hell am I getting extra? But then we figured out like there's kickback from other stuff. But yeah, mine was definitely per appearance. I'm sure a lot of guys are. So
Would you have got extra if you ever had like your own T-shirt? Would you have got like a cut from that if it was ever released?
yeah, all the residual stuff is like that. So if I can't remember what it was, but it's like you just standard stuff. You get whatever percentage of your own stuff. And I think generally speaking, we get it from maybe like the regular merchandise and the regular DVD, like stuff that's like a group thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
but unfortunately, I never had any merchandise. So.
D2K virus from the forum is asking, were you concerned at the possibility of being released when Ring of Honor stopped bringing you in early in the summer?
Um, yeah, a little bit. I'm trying to think of what my mindset was at the time. Um, yeah, actually, I remember that I was, because I remember joking with the Bucks that um, that next week I'll just hear that I was fired altogether. I kept telling them like next time I talk to you, I'll just be fired completely. It never happened, obviously, but yeah, I was a little worried about it. I mean, I guess who wouldn't be? I mean, if you worked at, you know, the gas station and you were working 20 hours a week, and then all of a sudden you're working 2 hours a week, you'd be like, okay, eventually it's going to be 0 hours probably, right? So.
And another question from the forum. This one's from Harpoon IPA again. And he wants to know who's to blame for you and the Young Bucks not getting a big push in Ring of Honor.
I would imagine that's all just down to creative. I mean, I don't want to say that it's like you blame them for us not, but they're responsible with whether or not we do get it. So that would be a better way to put it, because it's like I don't think we ever place blame like if we don't get something, but at least I don't. Like I don't care. I mean, I don't think it's like a travesty. Like, you know, who am I to say that? But it, you know, whether we do or don't get something, it just completely comes down to creative. I'm sure that, you know, at some point, like, you know, some people from Sinclair probably want certain guys to get the nod just because of, you know, they see what they have in their programming. They see what they have as far as guys that do appearances and how that, you know, might help the company or business. Like when they have the Briscoes on the news or something, you know, like.
Didn't
And
want
I've
them to
been,
do the weather as well once.
yeah, I've done some meet and greets where like I think I did one where like it was like me and Adam Cole and the Briscoes, and I think maybe Cedric Alexander were meeting a bunch of college students or people that were guests of the television show, and the Briscoes were just wildly popular. So I remember thinking at that time like um, there's probably a reason why they're able to keep their steam going and going and going. Like they're very, very good, but then at the same time they have such a profound effect, I guess, on our clientele, and I'm sure that people at the very top of the food chain, you know, Sinclair and everybody, they see that. So try to make sure that guys like that get a chance to keep flourishing. So.
But were guys from Sinclair at every show? Like, would there be guys from Sinclair at house shows, or was it just mainly TV and pay-per-view?
I don't know if I remember seeing them at house shows ever, but there's always somebody there at the house shows and pay-per-views. I mean, um, I don't remember if I ever met them, but I think even like the owners and stuff at the very top of everything were there at a few of them. But yeah, and we'd see like it felt like Joe Koff was like at everything. You know, I remember saying hi to him pretty much everywhere we went. So.
I suppose now we'll talk about your release from your Ring of Honor contract just for a bit here. So when exactly, were you released and how did it come about?
Well, that was pretty easy piece of business, I guess. I mean, so I came back from TV. The timeline kind of went like this. Like I came back from TV, or for TV, sorry, and I came in for pre-tapes the day before. I didn't do any pre-tapes. We had a meeting for creative things. I think I addressed this one on my form string at one point that I had a meeting, and it was pretty productive. So we threw around ideas of well, first they let me know that Sinclair got upset that all the fans were upset that I was taken off. Somehow that was my fault. But I told them, like I was saying earlier, I told them, like, you should see that as a positive thing. Because I remember when they brought that up, I was saying that, it'd be one thing if I was like always tweeting or saying like really negative shit all the time, like, oh man, they misspelled this in production. This sucks, and blah 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 blah. Like, a lot of other guys are doing that. Like, guys that are in the company are doing that. And I remember telling them, I don't do that. Like, somebody might tweet that Ring of Honor's missing the boat or something like that, or maybe they'll say something even like really harsh and in support of me, like, I can't believe he's not on or whatever. And I might retweet it and say something that's kind of dry or just bringing humor to it, but nothing that's like malicious, like just being like kind of silly, tongue in cheek. Because I don't think it's necessary to be negative, but I also think it's stupid to act like things aren't the way they are. I mean, people have a mind of their own, and so I just they I remember telling them, this is harmless. Like, I haven't even wrestled a match for you guys in months, and people care more about me now than the last time I wrestled. Like, that's they're asking for something that you have the ability to give them. So, to me, the obvious answer is give it to them.
Yeah, it's not like you weren't under contract or something. You're already there.
Yeah, because I remember telling them, like, when I was wrestling, people cared however much they cared about me. The moment I was gone and the time that I hadn't even wrestled a match, all of a sudden I was worth way more. Like, people were more concerned about me. I'm like, there's something you can do with it. And I told them, I don't really care what you do. I just think that this is a good thing. But, they said, well, that Sinclair doesn't feel that way. And, they were upset and they didn't want to get all this backlash. And I said I understood, but we had this meet, so we got that out of the way, and that was just kind of silly because, like, I don't think Jim and Hunter cared. They said it was the company thing, but so we had a meeting and kicked around ideas of how to change things up. And this is another thing that it was like where I still have trouble understanding, like, where I was left off, like the reasons why, because I was saying before, like, it was about travel. It wasn't about travel. It was about, money. It wasn't about money. It was about this. It wasn't about this. And it continued because I remember sitting there saying, they, like, I can't remember how it went, but I think I remember almost laughing out loud because of how silly it came out, because it was like so quick succession. Like, it was like in one sentence they told me, you're a world-class wrestler, you're one of the best around, and your hiatus had nothing to do with your wrestling. We think your matches are amazing. You always give us what we want. Whatever. And literally in the next breath, it was like, I think it was like Jim that said, if you're tearing the house down every night, we'd be able to justify having you on every show. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just said it wasn't about wrestling. I didn't say that. In my head, I was just thinking of, like, wait a minute, how does that make any sense? Like you're the best wrestler in the world, and then the next sentence, well, if you're a little better, like, but I think that maybe it's just because we didn't, there was never a commitment to make emotional investment, for me. So I think that was really the point of this. So, we were kicking around ideas for creative direction, and we came up with a few ideas, which I thought were great ideas, but I was a little lukewarm because I was still going to go back on hiatus. Like, it was kind of stuff that was going to be implemented remotely, through vignettes and promos and things like that. So,
But you wouldn't be getting paid, would you, if you're not getting booked?
Yeah, exactly. So I remember thinking, like, well, this is great, and I'm sure that, like, the Ring of Honor, the product, could benefit from this, especially because I feel like I have a lot to offer, but it's just never been able to be exposed. Now it'll be able to do that, but at the same time, I won't be wrestling. And I remember telling him, like, I don't care about getting a push or anything. Like, you could bring me back and I'll lose every night in the opening match with even less minutes, but I just want to keep wrestling. Like, I'm having fun just wrestling. I just want to work. I don't have any personal need to, I need to show, like, that I'm better than people think, or I need to show that I can really talk on the mic or something. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I don't have that much like self pride, I guess. Like, I'm just happy to be there. But they're like, no, this would be a good idea, and this is what we'll do. So we left it at that, and then so that was the day before TV. Excuse me. And then the next day we had a production meeting, and first they addressed as part of the meeting, like, everybody in the world has like shoot interviews now. So like, it's like, Roderick had one coming out, and then Davey had done one, and like, the stuff with Kenny happened. So it was like, they were addressing that. Basically just telling people to be smart, and I agree that I think a lot of the guys are just, they vent in a very stupid way. So, so there was that. And then they had said, I think mostly pertaining to the Kenny situation, like, look, if any of you guys are unhappy and you want to leave, or you feel like this isn't the right place, or if you feel like you were better off before you came in here, then let us know. Like, if you need to leave, then we'll work together, and we'll figure out how to get you on the right course, and then we can go our separate ways. We'll do what's right for everybody involved. And every company in the world does this. Like, WWE does this. I'm sure they maybe do it in a harsher way. Like, well, there's the door. Speak up now. That type of thing. But I, for the entirety of me wrestling, I've always like thought it silly when like my peers, they're given that opportunity, they don't say anything, and then they wait out their time and get fired or let go or whatever happens, and then they go on this tirade about how unfair it is and like how stupid so and so is and yada yada yada. And I'm like, like, be a man and just stand up and say, like, all right, you guys are asking, I'm saying, okay, I'm done. So they put that out there, and then I went up to them immediately and said, look, I'd like a few minutes, and I just said, look, I don't want to go back on hiatus. I don't think it's necessary. I think that you have something that people want in me. You have the ability to give it to them, which we've analyzed, like, all the different reasons and things like that. And they said, for their own reasons or whatever, they just couldn't do that. And so I said, look, I do think that I'd like to go. And I think the kicker for it was that in the time that I was off, there were several phone calls and things from places that I could have otherwise fielded offers that I couldn't pick up the phone because I was under contract. So, TNA is part of that group. WWE was kind of part of that group. Like, there's a lot of places that were part of that group. So then I told them, like, I don't even want a reason to pick up the phone. I want to stay, but if I can't wrestle, then I can't wrestle. That's the only bad part about this is that I just want to wrestle and I'm not doing it. So I just I asked for my release because I said it's not that I want to go, but I would like the ability to see what else is out there for me, and they completely understood and were completely amicable about it.
So did you sort of part on good terms? Would you be welcome back if you decided to return there?
I assume so. I mean, unless in the last 24 hours they've become blindly rageful at me. I don't know. I mean, sometimes things like that happen, but all throughout the process, I just I told them, look, I don't want to go anywhere. All my friends are here, and this is a place I really want to be. Especially getting in on the ground floor where they're trying to break into new ground. Like, I thought it was a great place. I loved working with Jim. I told him, it's been a huge pleasure. I've learned so much, and he felt likewise. Like, it's been a pleasure working with me. I always gave him what he wanted. So, and they understood. They're like, look, we understand it's a tough spot for anybody here. Like, so, if you feel like you're being slighted or shorted, or you feel like maybe it's a better situation, like his words were, we're all the boys here. Like, we're not your boss. We're one of you. So we know what it. We all know what it's like to be in these shoes. So, he just said, look, we'll let you go, and because I'd be on hiatus anyway. So it's like, if nothing comes about, then I'm right back where I started, and it's no big deal. So. So it was pretty much an open door.
Were there no plans at all to have you come back, after another hiatus and come back full time? Because I suppose if you would have been away and cutting promos and stuff for a couple of months, there'd be no point really doing that if they didn't have plans to bring you back, for shows full time sort of thing.
I don't. I guess we didn't really get that far. Like, there's like, the kind of the setup and the guidelines for a new direction to go, and just not really where it would lead eventually. They still got a lot of talented guys that are still just on the horizon for them. So I'm sure that they're concerned with stuff that's coming to fruition a lot quicker. Elgin's on his way up the card, like to the top spot, and Tommaso is the same, and there's a lot of guys that are on a faster track than that. So I don't think we never really look that far ahead.
ECW Hardcore 07 on our forums.
Sweet name.
On our forum says, with hindsight, do you regret signing with Ring of Honor since you were used so poorly? Or rarely, perhaps would be a better way to put it.
No, no, I don't. I don't regret it at all. I can't remember who said this, but there was somebody else that was like more upset about it than I was, where they're saying like I came in the door like with the reputation of like a world-class guy, and I'm like, by the time I was released, it was like my reputation was completely flip-flopped. Like, so I know that some people were probably real frustrated, but that doesn't bother me, because like, my peers know the difference, and I know the difference, and to be honest, like the opinion of my place doesn't really matter. So I just wanted the ability to go wrestle. If I only have a minute out there, then I'll find a way to still have fun and be creative and use that freedom wisely. I thought that, and this is one of the things I said to them. I told them when we had the meeting, before I asked for my release, I said, like, I've never been in a position where I felt like I was handcuffed. Like, I've been in different positions with all kinds of companies all over the world, AAA and CMLL, New Japan, everything. But, I felt like, in this case, and I don't blame them, like, they had their reasons, but it's like, I was always, like, out there for just, 5 minutes or so. And my promos and everything were written for me. The delivery was expressed to me how they wanted it. Like, everything was curtailed. Like, I remember telling them, creatively, I wanted to, part of the changes, I said, I'd like to be a little bit more like me. Like, I know that you guys want me to deliver things in a certain way and to say certain things, but I just think that, like, I think you guys know that I'm responsible enough to be a little unconventional, but I'm not going to step on anybody's toes, but I think people would be more interested in seeing me. Like, thousands of people listen to me tweet and talk every day, and they love everything they hear. And all of a sudden they see a completely different person on the screen. It's like, why is that? It's like, obviously I have a good ability to talk, and I'm articulate and charismatic in my own unique way, but I'm not able to do that. I think it was one of the promos I did. I think it was wrestling Mike Bennett, and I remember I thought it was weird because his promo, he was talking about Lance Storm, and then they're like, okay, now you're going to do a promo where you're talking about how he's not even talking about you. I'm like, yeah, that makes me look awesome, right? My opponent doesn't even want to talk about me. So I remember thinking, this is just a setup for failure. Like, there's no way I could come out of this looking good. So I was thinking, like, all right, well, I'll go off script a bit and I'll say I'll try to be a little bit more like me. And so I went like I was a little bit more myself the first take, and I think it got to where I think they kept one take of this line in there where I said um God, what did I say? Something about Brutal Bob needs to teach you 10 ways out of a you can't wrestle chant. Originally I said somebody better teach you 10 ways out of a boring chant. And they're like, you can't say that. I'm like, well, why not? I understand like traditional like things, but like in this instance, like, times are different, generations are different. This is the type of thing that everybody says, all young kids, people of my generation, they're all class clowns, and this is what they hear from me on a daily basis, on Twitter and social media and stuff like that. And this is what people are saying. And I'm a good guy. I'm just being a mouthpiece for what people are already thinking, and giving them, something they can hear and kind of be like, fuck yeah, and kind of laugh because, it's a funny little thing. And to be honest, like Mike Bennett's the perfect guy to put in that situation because it's like the best thing for him is if he gets a boring chant, then, like he's such a great bad guy. Like it's perfect. And he's so responsible. Like he's maybe one of my favorite guys there. So, there were times when I would want to be more like me and they would just edit it out and they'd say, don't do that. Just do what we say, deliver it how we say it. So I'd do it. So, I don't regret being there. Creatively, things, like I said, could have been different, but it's like at the end of the day, I just want to be able to wrestle. So,
you just said about how you didn't really get much freedom in regards to delivery of promos and what you were saying. Is that the same sort of thing for a lot of the guys, or is it just sort of with you?
With a lot of the guys, yeah. Some guys, they most of the time, the product that you see is the hands of a whole lot of other people. Because like fans will tell me stuff all the time. Like I'll hear like I'm leaving a show or maybe on Twitter or Formspring or something like that, and it's like, well, why don't you say this or this guy and this guy's so awesome he says this, but it's like people don't understand like that's a product of setup. Like, so and so can be brash because they're telling 20 people don't be brash. So this guy looks like he's a badass, So then it's like, okay, like anybody could go out there and get bleeped out because they're saying some harsh things or say like, like really harsh stuff about everybody and be super controversial, and people would be like, oh my God, and go nuts. But then if everybody was doing it, then nobody's controversial. So, like there's different levels of curtailing and different levels of filtering for every single person all across the board. I remember towards the end, one of their ideas for me creatively, they're like, we're going to take the training wheels off. So they're like, you do whatever you want. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know if I'm the guy that you want to do whatever I want. Like, because I mean, like anybody could say anything and still get the same like controversial, like loose cannon, like badass, like reputation. But like, I'm a pretty like witty, articulate guy. Like I'm pretty sharp and I'm pretty quick off the mark. So I remember thinking like, I don't know if you guys read the stuff that I write every day, but I don't think you want me to have free range over saying anything. Like that's a lot of ammunition to give to a kid. But yeah, I mean like that it for everybody that is the case. Like there are guys where they tell them cut back because we need this guy to look better than you, I guess, or say this, not that. There's a lot of stuff like that going on.
This next question is a little bit strange, but Burnside says, do you know how much of Ring of Honor's roster are currently under contract?
As far as I know, everybody that they see on the regular is under contract. I don't think anybody's freelance. Like the guys that are, you might see them more like. I mean, you would know. Like, I don't have like a list or anything, but like if I were to go through one by one and say this guy is, this guy is, this guy isn't, you'd say, oh, okay, I know why he isn't. Like you could just kind of tell like based on the amount of time that you see them and how much stock is put into them, that type of thing. So.
Right, I suppose talking generally now about Ring of Honor and sort of current direction of the company. I mean, I suppose it's sort of still a transitional period for Ring of Honor. They're still trying to go from sort of an indie company to a national TV one. I mean, what are your thoughts on the current direction generally of the company?
Well, you mean like creative direction or business direction?
Yeah, creative, I guess. Yeah.
I think I like where they are now because a lot of things are starting to come more to fruition where it's like people, I think, I don't know if people have, but like, I think a lot of people watching, like they're kind of waiting for certain things to fall into place. Like I think people have been waiting for Elgin to be knocking on the door of the main event, and now it's like he's the man, and he's the man everywhere now. I think people have been waiting for Adam Cole to, start shooting up the ladder, and now it's like he is. People have been waiting for Tommaso to really, break into as far as like being the bad guy and the badass, character that he portrays. And same thing, and he is. So it's like I think that like, and people were waiting for a change with Davey on top and seeing what else they can do, like what's the next step. And now that they've taken the next step and they're going through that, it's like I think it's kind of sad that I'm not there because I kind of like it better now than maybe a few months ago. Not that it was bad, but I just think that now a lot of the dominoes are starting to fall into place that they were kind of expecting. So.
Mm. And I suppose from a business sense as well. I mean, I'm not sure how much you know about sort of the business side of things, but I mean, from that sort of side, how do you think that Ring of Honor are getting on that sort of side of things?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, whenever I'd talk to Jim generally about what's going on with the company and just what he's got his hands in, what he's working on, different projects and promotions and things like that. There's so much stuff that they have the potential to do, and not all of it ends up coming to a head. But I think that they're doing all the right things. I think that I personally I think that maybe they should put less stock into the house shows and more into the production that they get on screen. I think it's too evenly spread out. But I mean, I'm not a promoter. I'm not. I've been wrestling for 14 years, but I've always been in the ring, not behind a desk. So I'm the last guy to comment on what should or shouldn't be done. I think that the business is going okay for them. I mean, I don't think it's a good thing when they have to cut back in certain areas, but I don't think it's because Sinclair is suffering. I think that maybe it's just because they want to. If it's a money thing, I think it'd be just more to fine tune meeting their budget, so to speak. Yeah, kind of like WCW was with Turner and Time Warner and all that. When it's not like there's not money there. It's not like the business isn't okay. They just want to make sure it's turning around the right kickback.
So one part of the company where they haven't really sort of cut back is the pay-per-views. I mean, there's been quite a lot this year compared to previous years. I mean, do you think more pay-per-views are a good idea, or would you prefer maybe like one every 2 or 3 months, something like that?
Well, I think with an hour of TV and with the amount of guys that they have that they need to find direction for, so that people don't end up kind of falling into like the place that I was, where it's not that they don't have an idea, they just maybe there's just not the time or the means to start unraveling certain stories or whatever. But I kind of feel like spreading out the pay-per-views is better because they could get more out of what they're doing. I think having them in such quick succession maybe isn't a good thing. But then again, at the same time, it's like if they don't build bigger house show loops and things like that to supplement, doing less pay-per-views, that like they have to find the right exchange of, we'll take away these things and spread them out, but then we need income in another area. So then it's like, all right, well, we need to put out more live events, and then it's about finding the TV markets that have, the best viewership. So then you're able to provide live events in that area, and it's like, it's so complicated. It's very difficult to. I never want to do that. I never, ever, ever want to run a wrestling anything.
So one guy that they have, put a lot of time and effort into is Kevin Steen, obviously world champion now. I mean, I suppose a lot of people will look at him and maybe he doesn't fit the stereotypical sort of mold for a Ring of Honor champion. I mean, what are your thoughts on Kevin Steen? Do you think he, represents the company well as world champion?
I think he's everything that he was supposed to be. I mean, like I've heard Davey say it before a billion times. He's Steve Austin. That's his role. That's his character, and I think he's doing it perfect. And they set it up that way. I mean, Kevin is an incredibly talented and gifted guy, and at the same time, Ring of Honor, set up pieces around him and put training wheels on certain guys in order to let Kevin flourish. And he obviously is very good at running with the ball. I've heard and understand certain things like about, well, he doesn't look like the typical guy, and he doesn't look like a wrestler, and this or that, and that's true. And to be honest, like I'm super white collar in my view on things like that for wrestling. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing that WWE wants guys that are 6'2", 240, which obviously, like, I wouldn't even pass on myself if I were my own boss.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a bad thing to take guys who still look like athletes, to have Matt Seidel's and me's and Tyson Kids and stuff like that, for example. But I completely agree with the approach that even if everybody kind of looks the same, I agree with the approach that as a general rule, at least they should look like they belong. But then at the same time, we're all characters. I mean, this is it's a show. So, I mean, Kevin looks the way he looks, but he delivers what he delivers, so it doesn't matter. He's not meant to look like me. He's not meant to look like a guy that does CrossFit all day long and stuff. He's just he is who he is. People buy into you, which is why like the questions about me, for example, when like, oh, well, you don't, like, I don't exactly cut promos like The Rock or anything like that, but like, there's a sense about me, the way that I dress and the jokes that I make and the smug nature of me being kind of a class clown of life. Like, there's a certain charm and like the charisma that I have that people see, like, that buys into me. So it's like, well, I'm not conventional either. Neither is Kevin. Like, that's the beauty of wrestling. It's kind of like Street Fighter. It's just like a whole bunch of characters and everybody's different. That's the key, is like what are you?
And I suppose that one of the biggest sort of news pieces, apart from your release, obviously over the last couple of days in Ring of Honor, has been Matt Hardy and that the rumours surrounding him coming into the company. I mean, Ring of Honor have brought him types, him, and we've had Finlay and guys like Rhino to a lesser extent coming from being former WWE guys, and just bringing these type of guys in, maybe give them less chance to do something with a guy like you who needs a bit more TV time to sort of explain who you are and get you over. I mean, do you think them bringing these sort of guys in sort of hurts, people like you, basically?
Well, I mean, yeah, like, anything like that, like, somebody's always missing out. I mean, it's really just a big game of musical chairs. It's not always a sense of who's sitting in the chair, just so much that the chair is not available. So yeah, like, whether one spot is taken and another one is not being given. But see, in this case, it's like with Matt Hardy. Like, Matt Hardy is famous, but at the same time, like, coming in, I feel like there'd be just as much explaining to do about why the hell Matt Hardy's around, as opposed to the time they'd spend building, say, like ACH, who's coming in the door now. Like, same amount of time is going to be spent, because like simply seeing somebody's name on a piece of paper, that's business like doesn't benefit from that the same way it did 20 years ago.
Mm.
You know, if this were 1989, I'd say something completely different. Like, I mean, seeing Matt Hardy's name on a piece of paper would mean a lot more. Now it's kind of like, you know, there's just different levels of interest based on substance and different things going on. I mean, more would have to be explained. I mean, you'd pretty much downright have to be like Triple H or like Randy Orton or something and have your name on a piece of paper, and that's all you need. Like, you'd have to be Shawn Michaels. Like, it takes like an incredible amount of fame just to draw somebody based on your name. I mean, you know, so.
And that's just from a business point of view as well. And do you think, investing time into, guys, the younger guys is better in the long term than maybe bringing these guys in for a few shows to hopefully get better buy rates or whatever? I mean, do you think that time should be spent on hyping up the younger guys a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that they should. I think that it's kind of like sitting on the fence. I mean, pick one side and go with it. Like, if it's good to bring in different guys every so often and guys that pique the interest from previous emotional investment, then cool, stick with that. To be honest, I don't know where that road would eventually go, but I'd be willing to see how it turns out. But at the same time, if otherwise, then get on the other side of the fence and run with that ball. Like, establish your own guys and commit to them. You know, like, you gotta spend money to make money. So, which is why, like, people think like WCW and WWE and like TNA were like the evils of the world because they would, like, change your name and copyright it, and then you guys leave with nothing. But at the same time, they're spending millions of dollars to make you famous. And now you're going to take that to PWG or something, and it's like, that's, they spent money to make money. So there's a reason for that. So it's like, even though smaller companies maybe don't have the same assets in order to invest, like, then they got to do what they can. So I just really think it's a matter of picking a road and sticking with it.
Yeah. And last one now, we've got another question from Harpoon IPA. He wants to know, do you know if the ROH locker room is nervous about what kind of future ROH has?
Maybe. I mean, I don't really know. Like, see, that type of thing, like, I'm pretty jovial, like, generally speaking. I kind of float through things, and I'm pretty happy and positive. So, like, stuff like that, like, I don't really know if, like, the room feels a certain way or not, just because to me it's like I'm, happy to get on that plane, happy to show up for work, happy to see my buddies, happy to figure out where we're going to have dinner, and happy to go out to the ring, and happy to take the fans on the emotional roller coaster that we have, whether it be 5 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. But like, so, stuff like that, like, I don't know, like, I'm usually busy putting on my iPod and warming up or something, like, I don't know, like playing Sonic the Hedgehog or something. I don't think I think if people were overly negative, then it would be, pretty influential in the room. Like, you wouldn't be able to avoid it. So, seeing as how I don't really see any negativity, I don't think there really is any.
Well, that about wrap things up. Thank you again for taking the time to speak with us today.
No, of course, it's a pleasure.
And best of luck with everything going forward with TNA. Hopefully there'll be some good news coming up from that. And
we might have to change my website extension to TJP at TJP World. I don't know what we'd have to do.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to change that. Well, technically, do we have to change it now? That's a discussion for another time, I think. But
I think it's okay for right now. But I need to stop dragging my feet and start being more responsible as a businessman and figure out crap like that and merchandise and things. But.
So, thank you to everyone for listening. We do hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you again to TJ for joining us, and we will see you all next week.